And welcome again to another week of John's Eclectic Photo Time Story Adventure, part of Roll of 24. This is for the week of 23 March through 29 March 2026. And it's a rather eclectic week again with a variety of different photographs. We have pictures of Charlie and some of his friends out at the dog park. We have some pictures taken out at the carnival that came through town that week. Also, actually captured a picture over in my neighbor's yard. He calls this an Easter lily. And my other neighbor behind me, I was out walking Charlie and we found some primroses. And come to find out, these bloom at night. And so I took the UV light out to see if anything on these flowers actually glowed under UV light. Very interesting. And then another night I was coming in and locking everything up, and the wife says, "What's out there?" And lovely bride pointed out that the lights along the back were very well illuminated. It had been a very bright, cloudless day. And so I captured some photographs of the backyard at night. And once again, I used a variety of different cameras and lenses. This is the R6 Mark II, which a lot of the pictures this week were photographed on with the 28-70. Also, I used the R5 Mark II. Oh, this is the R5. For the nighttime photographs along the back of the yard that lovely bride pointed out were glowing with the lights that she had put in. And then some of the pictures at the dog park I took with the Canon R5 Mark II with the 100 to 500 attached. This way the dogs are all over the park and I can zoom in and out and capture them as they run around and do their thing. So this first picture is actually the purposeful picture that I decided to do this week. I wanted to take a picture right out of camera. No editing in Lightroom, Photoshop, nothing. And so what I did is I used the filters inside of the R6 Mark II and set this to high contrast. And I took a whole bunch of pictures, but I think I love these two really well. And once again, my challenge was straight out of camera. And so once again, this is my purposeful picture for the week, my own personal challenge. And the secondary challenge was really to straight out of camera, no editing inside of Lightroom, Photoshop, any of the other programs. And so as you can see here, this was shot at 1250, 1/1250, and the ISO was 1600 because I was just looking for the contrast and in this high key shot. And I think it turned out pretty good. Once again, I did no further editing, and I think the shadow of Charlie coming towards me just really, it's an interesting picture, and I really like how it turned out. So the second image here, this is at 500 millimeters, and I'm at 1/1600 and at 5000 ISO f7.1. And you can see there's more contrast. You can see Charlie, and there's a husky laying down there underneath the picnic table. And so this one's has more contrast in it than the other one because I was shooting into the sun. Charlie's being lit by the sun here in this one. And anyways, I think it was a very unique style and challenge for myself this week to use the internal filters inside of the R6 Mark II. These next three images are nighttime images along some statues we have in our backyard. And lovely bride has put a bunch of different lights around. And that day, it had been a cloudless day and the sun was blazing. And these are solar powered. and they were just really at max. And she made a comment. She was wondering what was glowing in the backyard, and I said that her lights. And so I stopped and came out to the office, and then I spent the next 45 minutes taking pictures of these different statuettes that the lovely bride has set up along the back of the fence. And so, as I just mentioned, I used the Canon RF 28 to 70. I think it works real well at night, the lens. And I used the R5. I found that it has a little bit greater depth of field at night than the R5 Mark II and the R6 Mark II. But then again, I'm not sure if I'm a technician worthy of judging that. But that's just how I feel my pictures turn out. And so I took this photograph and I did tweak it in Lightroom to create a few extra glows here and there. And this is the second image I took along the lights along the and statues along the back fence line. This is image number 4 of the 24, and this one had a greater purple glow, and the bird on the left hand side was actually side lit. Not really sure how. Must have been another light in there that I wasn't seeing or something. But you can see that there's more light on the right-hand side of the statue, so I must have had something over there glowing. Oh, I know what that is. That's my neighbor. He has a light on his storage shed in the back behind my fence. Anyways, I just loved how the colors turned out in this image. And so here's the third and last image that I took that night out there. And one of the things that's interesting is each one of the different flower arrangements that Lovely Bride has created and put out there, they all fluctuate. They have revolving colors. And so really two pictures are ever the same, because one plant might be going white, yellow, pink, orange, green, and the other ones might be in a different series because they're not all tied together. There's like 5 different groups of solar lights out there illuminating each one of the 4 statues that we have. And I just loved how this one worked. And there's actually some lights that are behind the statue that is providing that type of halo glow behind them. So earlier in the afternoon, Lovely Bride, I, and Charlie were out walking around the subdivision, and the one of the clean water towers, I think we have 6 or 7 of them. I don't really know the total number. Anyways, this one's behind our subdivision that we live in. And while we were walking, I looked behind me, and there was clear skies to the west. And so when we got back home, I grabbed the tripod, the camera, and I took the R6 Mark II here with this one with the 100 to 500 and set it at 300 millimeters. And I just really loved how the sun was setting, and it created this yellow, golden, orange glow on the symbol for the city. And anyways, I thought it was just really a nice picture to capture. So it is springtime, and as I mentioned in last week's video, roll of 24, where I had some flowers and plants, these flowers are fleeting. They might be only out for 3 or 4 days, and the next couple images are of primroses. And when Charlie and I came back from taking pictures of the water tower, I had seen the primroses just coming out, and I was like, I don't remember seeing those on the walk out to go take those pictures of the water tower. And then I did some research, and these primroses only come out once the sun's gone down. And so I was just curious, will they glow or anything underneath the UV light? And then I also took the flash out with me. So that simple walk around the block with Lovely Bride, Charlie, and I earlier in the afternoon turned into a rather lengthy expedition. So I took the picture of the water tower, and as I just mentioned, I came back from that, and I saw the primroses coming out. So it's like, all right, we'll just wait for it to get a little bit darker to come back out. And I'm still using the R6 Mark II, but now I've switched over to the RF 100 2.8 macro lens and did a series of photographs. Little challenging in a sense that it was windy. Well, not windy, but there was a slight breeze. And there is a little bit of ghosting on this one in about the 7 o'clock position. But overall, I think a bunch of these turned out really nice. So one of the challenges that I have with macro, because I'm still not that great experienced after 2 years of trying it, is capturing the, not sure what these things are called, coming out the center of a flower. But using the macro lens and taking multiple series and then blending those in Photoshop. This is cropped in so that I could see these better, but I think they turned out rather well. They're very detailed, maybe a little bit of better improvement. Very few other adjustments inside of Lightroom, maybe just a little bit to color and a little dehaze to make everything pop. But I just really love how the center of these flowers look because they're so small and really only visible by camera. And once again, these primroses are along my neighbor's fence along the sidewalk. And his wife passed away last year, but he mentioned that she was the one that planted these primroses in their backyard. And they kind of went to seed and blew everywhere. And so now I get to enjoy some of them. But as I mentioned, I took the UV light out because I wanted to see if anything glowed. And you can see the stems do glow purple. And nothing else really. The leaves just sucked in the UV light, it seems. But I was hoping for something more interesting, more spectacular. But once again, this was a challenge in a sense that there was still a slight breeze, even though this was along a fence. And it took a while to get everything set up, but I think the UV light presents a unique perspective to this primrose. And so each one of these images of a primrose is of a different primrose. There's probably about 30 of them. Some of them were in the grass, some were along the fence. And I found this one cluster, and I struggled to get my tripod low enough. I have a little bitty 3-legged tripod I'll show next week. But once I got everything set up, and the hardest part here in this one, the challenge to myself, I guess, is my UV light does not have a opening or anything that I can use to screw into a stand. So trying to hold that and make sure I have focus, because my autofocus kept on wanting to come out. But you can see there's no ghosting on this one, so I think this one turned out rather nice. And there is a little bit of glow along those tops of the pollen shoots, I guess. And here's my last image of these primroses. And once again, this was just another cluster. I was tired of holding up the UV light, so I went over and found this other grouping. And I just loved how the green leaves were presented down there. And so I set the flash up and slowly took these images, because you can see I'm at 7.1, 1.18 of a second. So this was rather of a challenge, but I think they turned out really well. So during this week, the carnival was in town, and unfortunately I could not take Charlie with me for this, but a lot of acting or different things with the cameras, slow shutter speeds to get the motion of some of the things, especially the Ferris wheel, and then some of the speeds were up to 5,000 or 6,000 in order to freeze the motion going on in the scene. So I got to the carnival, and you can see this is almost 7 o'clock. I'd been walking around earlier during the day, taking some daytime shots and practicing with different lenses. I had a 15 to 35, I had a 14 millimeter, 10 to 20 millimeter, and a 135 prime. And so you can see this is with the 135, and so I don't have to stand that close, which is good, because I don't think this lady would have let me take her picture like some of the other people saw me pick my cameras up and then ducked or picked their hands up to block me as a photographer. So right behind where that lady was eating the funnel cake was this little kids ride. And like I said, it's 7 o'clock, so the park is slowly starting to fill up. And so I captured this image of the two kids. It took me thank goodness the ride lasted long enough, because it took me like 7 different images to finally capture this. Too slow, too fast, wrong position. But I just loved how the girl, I don't think she's looking at me. I think she's looking at her parents standing next to me. And then the little boy's facial expression, just priceless. So I actually have two images of this Ferris wheel, and this Ferris wheel was a challenge because it's not so much getting the camera settings correct, it's just standing around for 8, 10, 15 minutes when they're doing their loading and unloading. Is they'd start moving it and then they'd stop it, and then they'd start moving it, and they'd stop it. And so it was just a lot of standing around waiting for it to actually go into full motion. And this is one of two of the photos. And you can see here that I was at F8 and so, as I mentioned earlier, I was walking around the carnival grounds with just the R6 Mark II, and then I started off with the 135, then I looped all the way around, and then over by the entrance, because that's where the security guards were at, I'd put down my backpack and switch out to another lens. And this is the new Canon 14 millimeter ultra wide angle. Pretty interesting. I do like the perspective here where the building looks like it's leaning backwards just a little bit. And there's a couple of other pictures following. So here I am. I'm still using the 14 millimeter ultra wide. And so this is one of the negative things about that when you're so close to somebody is they look rather tall. It's a unique perspective, but know that female is not 10 feet tall. She was probably about 5'5", because the kid on the right hand side is probably only 5 foot tall. Anyways, I just thought it was funny that she was feeding them a turkey leg outside of the ride that they're soon to go on. And so here I had switched back to the 135 prime. The park was fuller. I had the 135 prime on when the sun was just setting, and as the park filled up, I went back and swapped out and used the 135 because I was having the 14 millimeter. You got to stand maybe 2 feet away from somebody at times, and that's not a good way to take photographs at a amusement park. So I put on the 135 because I was probably about 20 feet away from these people, and so they never recognized or saw me taking their image. So this image was rather difficult in a sense to capture. This was the fifth person that had come down this slide. I couldn't get focus right. I was just human error. I would time it wrong, but I'd get the top of their head, I'd get the top of the bottom of their feet. But eventually, after about 6 or 7 participants, unwilling, I finally captured this young boy coming down along the slide. So what it is you walk up, go across a rope bridge and some other things, and then you end by coming down the slide. And I just love the banana yellow and his clothing, perfect for this, the dark red and blue jeans. So this is one of those kind of images that is considered shot from below. This is, these people are inside the cage where the let's call it a missile tube, whatever. It rotates all the way in 360 degrees. And so I had a real hard time trying to capture an image and everything. So without laying down on the ground, yuck, at a carnival, I tilted myself all the way back and had this at 1/4000. And you can see 25,600 for the ISO. It cleaned up pretty nice. So still using that RF 14 millimeter ultra wide, and on this one I moved back a little bit, so I did crop in later so that I would not have that same giant effect of the individuals. And I just enjoyed this picture, the mother sharing a ice cream cone with their child in the stroller, and the coloring in the background. So I captured this at 1/400, which is interesting because there were a lot of things in motion in the background, and they're not too blurry. So you saw this ride earlier in motion, and once again, this ride, it was a very short ride, so unless I stood around for 10-15 minutes waiting for them to load and unload, the ride itself maybe lasted 75-80 seconds. It's slow going up, and then you can see I captured this at 1/4000 at 25,600 ISO to freeze the action as they were slowly twirling. Now it gets to the top, it's twirling here, but in another image you're going to see how fast it twirls as I slow down the shutter speed. So as you just saw in the video of the, I'm not sure what this ride's called, but going around. But then when I did the stop action here, I'm using the 135 prime, and I had it at 1/6 of a second, I believe. And it took a while, about 1/4 of a second. I used f1.8 because why? It was so far away, I didn't need any of the bokeh to be created. And anyways, I just really loved it. I was able to get the ISO down to 100 instead of using a higher ISO like the 25,600 in the previous image. And so at the end of the night, I'd already walked around the park 4, maybe 5 times, 2 times while the light was out, and then 3 times switching different lenses at night when the crowds got thicker. And I was just walking by, and I just loved how the red and the yellow of the corn dog stand was. And so took about 10 pictures. And I just liked this one because I was able to capture each of the workers, one on the left, one on the right, with their heads visible if you were to zoom in, and not stuck behind the Coca-Cola sign like the other 12 images had. And as I stated in the introduction, this is in my neighbor's yard. He planted these, he calls them Easter lilies. And so he has about 8 of them coming up around 2 trees on the western side of his house, so they get a lot of evening sun. And what's interesting is I was talking to him, and you can see on the right-hand side at the 2 o'clock position, those ones are getting ready to come out. And he said by the next day that those would already be, boom. He says by the time they get to that size, they pop their bulbs and they come out. Anyways, really pretty flower, and they're about 2 feet tall. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's very eclectic array of roll of 24. And if you did appreciate it and enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. And I'll see you all again next Wednesday. Thank you.